The Xbox Drive is powered by patrons at patreon.com/YumiCapri. And I want to say thank you to all of our patrons over there, especially our Diamond executive producers, Jonathan Brown and Slimer Snarf, our Platinum producer, Dallas Ford, and our Gold members, Argo, Ashley Nicholson, James Johnson, Gene K, Marcus O'Neill, Skinny Matt, Trucker Sloth, and Xavier Reyes. Thank you, everybody, for all of your support. Hey everyone, it's me, Sean Capri. I'm in my car and you're listening to the most horse-powerful podcast on the internet. It's the Xbox Drive. I'm on a Skype call with my friend Ryan Turford. He's the man on the moose, and on our journey today, put that Mass Effect Legendary Edition into my veins. I want it right now, so jump on into the Xbox Drive. Ball, 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 ball. I love that series. Ball.
Greater than X.
Hello, Sean Capri.
Hello, Ryan Turford. I don't normally like to talk about the weather, but it is a bone-chilling minus 30 degrees today, man. But I started my car twice so that I could warm it up and not freeze and die while recording the Xbox Drive. How are you?
I'm doing well. Please don't die, Sean.
I mean,
between the crazy snow last week and then the sub Arctic temperatures this week, I don't even know. I don't know what to make of your situation over there in Edmonton.
Ryan, living where I live, it feels like I'm in a video game world, or it feels like I'm in some sort of like movie that can't quite, like, you don't want the setting to be too similar from week to week. So it's like, yeah, I mean, summer's summer, but then we have like this, we have a Hoth planet sort of setting happening right now. It's very dangerous. There's people hiding in large animals that they're using to stay warm overnight. But yeah, that's just Canadian living, you know?
I mean, it sounds like you're just living on Novaria, Sean, and that's just the best life that you're trying to deal with. Trying to avoid the Rachni in this like weird hotel. And
wait, what the hell? What's Novaria? Where's that from?
It's from Mass Effect. It's the snow planet.
Oh,
in Mass
I'm
Effect.
such a fake fan. I'm such a fake fan. Holy
cow!
You're
such a fake fan, Sean.
No!
You in the intro, you're all about Mass Effect and pumping it to your veins, and now look at you. But I'm going to get us out of
Jack
this.
And Miranda.
By segueing us into cleaning the garage, of course.
All right.
We got one real quick thing, of course, and it's the same thing we start every show off with, of course. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing to us on YouTube, youtube.com/the Xbox Drive, whether you're just listening to us on audio feeds or you're watching the video version, because we are working our way towards 500 YouTube subscribers. And when we do, we'll be giving away another year of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. And all you have to do to enter is just be subscribed to the channel. So we're almost at 300. So we're getting there, Sean. We're going to eventually get to 500, but we're going to hammer it home until we actually get there. So, of course, we would really appreciate that. Other than that, John, we've got a packed show, so let's just dive right into the playlist.
All right.
I'm not even going to do my 8-track thing or anything like that. Sean, what are you playing this week?
You're going to talk about not talking about it. I'm just still playing Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, my friend. I am, oh my God, it is icy. Dude, this truck just kicked out a little bit. Still KOTOR. I have some weird animals on my ship now that I've got to take care of. I've got a stowaway bit of a problem. There's a language barrier with this creature person, little child thing that I don't know what she wants or how to talk to her. I'm leaning to the dark side, which means that I'm doing terrible things to a whole bunch of people across the galaxy. And yeah, just putting my star map together, man, trying to figure out where to find these Sith and maybe just hook up with them or something, dude. It's interesting, but you know, I've been wanting to get to the medium. I've been wanting to get to Hitman 3, but I think I'm gonna try and stay focused on KOTOR because I actually haven't finished a game in a little while. So Knights of the Old Republic has my heart, my friend, right now.
Very nice, my friend. And everyone, of course, thought Sean was so nice, but now the true nature of Sean has come out. He's a dark side player, folks.
Usually I am. We've talked about this with Mass Effect as well. Like my shepherd has got scars across his face because he's all renegade and stuff. It's a damning lifestyle out there in the galaxy. So that's where I'm at, dude.
Now, quick count so we can kind of get a feel of how far you are into this game. How many planets have you done past Dantooine?
I did Tatooine after Dantooine. I think that might be it. I just killed a giant like dragon thing and then killed everybody else who was hunting this thing. So
okay, so you're about halfway through the game.
Oh, that's it, dude. There's so many planets. What the heck? And and can I just say, this is my only real commentary as I slide through this intersection. Holy crap! The
video for this is gonna be interesting,
dude. Walking across a desert, and I know it's like the lore, it's the setting of the game, but goodness gracious, this game needs fast travel. I've walked across I've spent basically the last week walking across an empty desert. on Tatooine. Awful stuff. But I'm still pushing on. It's interesting, but goodness gracious. This game better pick up soon, my friend.
Oh, it definitely will. But again, I won't talk about that too much.
All
Because
right,
I will talk about Cyber Shadow, Sean.
Do it.
I finished
Oh,
Cyber
yeah.
Shadow this week.
Oh, you're so good at games.
That game is really, really hard. Again, I talked about it last week a little bit. The last, 3 levels almost killed me. Like I was ready to throw my Xbox controller across the room multiple times. Because again, it's what I talked about on last week's show where the checkpoints are spaced so far from each other that it's just
Not fair.
You're redoing so much of the level if you actually die. So it's very punishing, but it was fulfilling. And I did really enjoy my time with the game. Again, my criticism from last week still kind of stands where after kind of thinking about the game a little bit, as much as I loved the gameplay experience and loved the visuals and the music and all that stuff's great, there just wasn't really anything special about it that made me love it more than other games I played in the past, which again, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. It's just for me, who's played a bunch of those games already, it's more underwhelming than if it was like Shovel Knight, which took the type of formulas from some of those older games, but then added a new twist to it, or even just some stuff like the humor in Shovel Knight, for example, really carries it along the way. Whereas Cyber Shadow has got a story that I didn't really care too much about.
Right.
But the gameplay, again, super fun game. And definitely if you, again, are someone that didn't grow up with the NES but does like 2D games, then I think you're going to love it way more than I did. But overall, I really enjoyed my time with it, despite my criticisms.
Nice.
And before I get to the medium, I gotta quickly touch on Balan Wonderworld's demo, Sean, because I played it this week. This is the new game from Square Enix, being designed by the creator of Sonic the Hedgehog and Nights into Dreams, and it was a game that I was super excited about. And then the demo came out this week, and it's real bad, Sean. And I don't love. In fact, number one, I am the type of person that always likes to stay positive about stuff. One of the main reasons why you don't hear me go into too many negative spills about games on the show. And maybe it would be too early to prematurely judge the game. But this demo actually is not just a normal demo. It is basically the first 3 or 4 levels of the game. So it's essentially the beginning of the game intact.
Yeah, you get a good sense of what's up here.
Yeah, you have a good sense of what the gameplay is going to play out and how the story is going to turn out. Which again, the story is just kind of all over the place, and for the most part, I don't really see myself investing in the story. And the gameplay looked cool on paper, but when you start playing it, where all of your buttons are the jump button, kind of like Sonic, any button you press is the jump button, and it's all about switching these different costumes, and some of the costumes, for example, can't jump. And if you accidentally only pick up costumes that can't jump, you can get stuck in areas, for example. It's not good. It's not a good game.
It's almost like people who make Sonic don't know how to make games.
I'm
just kidding. I had to go there. I'm just kidding.
But
it's just
even
a joke.
some of the sequences where you play as Balan, which are supposed to be like the Nights into Dreams levels, where you basically are flying through space and you're collecting stuff, are essentially just quick time events rather than you free form controlling the character. It's just it's very underwhelming. So it moved the game from a game that I wanted to pick up at launch to maybe I'll pick it up on sale, or hopefully it comes to Game Pass. But
dude,
otherwise,
I honestly think that's why you don't see too many demos anymore. I think that's the whole point of them was to get people interested in games with a free to try kind of thing. And I feel like over time it either gave people their fill, they got enough of it, or they learned about the game that they just didn't want to play it.
Yeah,
just from an industry standpoint.
And Square Enix has always been very good about their demos. I mean, there's a demo for almost every new game that they come out with. Dragon Quest, for example, got that 10-hour demo, which is just literally the first 10 hours of that game.
Just a taste of the game.
But it was a fantastic demo because it was a fantastic game. So that's normally I wouldn't come on the show and badmouth a demo if it was just almost like the Resident Evil demo, where it's a self-contained thing. It's not part of the full game. But when it's like the Balan Wonderworld demo, which is essentially just a sliver of the game, but it is pulled straight from the game itself. That's where I can become a little bit more critical of it. So I'm still interested to see how it reviews when it does come out, but I am definitely less excited about it than I was before. But Sean,
sorry, man.
One last game to talk about that I played this week, exciting game that I'm excited to talk about, is The Medium. So full disclosure, I'm not going to go into like a big discussion about it here. One, because we have a lot to talk about, but two, I'm going to do another video about it hopefully this week, if not early next week, about the medium. So
yeah, and I want to jump in on it as well. I definitely want to be playing this game very soon.
Okay, so we'll wait till you play it first before we record that. But yes, my full thoughts, because I played the game to completion this week, so I actually finished it because it's not actually a super long game. It took me about 7 to 8 hours to finish it, so it's not actually a super long game.
Oh,
yeah, it's what I would describe the medium as is essentially a PS2 horror game, PS2 era horror game.
Not a good start.
Now, again, I think that's kind of why we're seeing kind of middling reviews from the medium, because I think it's going to appeal to certain people and not really appeal to other people. Now, again, I'm showing off in the video here. I'm a pretty big fan of PS2 era horror games. I really like them. There were a lot of really inventive ideas for horror games in the PS2 era, and I'm talking about games beyond the Resident Evil scope. Stuff like Clock
what?
Tower 3 or Haunting Ground or Trapped or a bunch of different horror games on the PS2.
Literally never heard. You just named games I've never heard of. Wow. Your knowledge is so deep.
I guess. Or I just play a lot of horror games. I love horror. It's one of my favorite genres. So I love playing horror games. And the reason why I compare it to PS2 horror games is the medium, essentially there's no combat in the game. So it's almost like a walking simulator crossed with a horror game. But it's also all about puzzle solving as well. So there's a lot of environmental puzzles that you have to figure out. And that's kind of how the dual reality system comes into play, because you're essentially mostly in the main reality, the normal reality, but then you'll get to certain areas where you'll need to solve a puzzle, and Marianne will shift to either just the spirit world only or to both worlds at the same time. And then you kind of see both play out in real time, which is super cool, actually. Every time it happens, it's actually a really cool effect. And it's mostly just a puzzle solving game, while also there's a bit of a timer on some of the puzzles or some of the walking segments, because you're also being chased by a monster that you can't really fight back against. Like, you can use some of the environment to kind of evade the monster in a better way. But for the most part, it almost is reminiscent of a game like a modern game like Alien Isolation or Amnesia.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah, but it's not from the first person perspective, and I would say there's much less emphasis on the monster itself and more about the puzzle solving, which is why I compare it more to PS2 era horror games. I also compare it to those as well because of the fixed camera angles, because it is a third person kind of like pseudo overhead, but it's got isometric camera angles. So if you've played a game like the old school God of War games, or again a game like Clock Tower, you're gonna be more at home with the type of visual style that this game is going for. Because I think more than anything, that's kind of where the influence of this game is kind of steeped from, is those, or as well as like the older Silent Hill games, but without the combat from Silent Hill. And also,
well, I feel like I'm going to be going to this after playing KOTOR, so no matter what, this game's going to look gorgeous to me, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely a very pretty game. That's the one thing I will say about it.
That's the thing. Like, I keep hearing this PS2 comparison, and it's just like I definitely am thinking about like visuals. But yeah, no, what you're saying is that it looks actually pretty good.
Yeah, when I say PS2, I mean from the gameplay and visual aesthetic look. But
no, I know, but I feel like
graphics,
a lot of people are describing this game, like, and the first thing that they'll talk about is like PS2 horror games. I hear that a lot, and I do feel like maybe some people are maybe taking too much into that, reading too much into that it is just gameplay as PS2, but visuals, like, this is pretty, like, this is the first next gen like exclusive to Xbox Series consoles.
Yeah, and it's awesome to see the dual reality stuff play out too, because just thinking about how all that stuff works and how they're essentially rendering basically two games at the same time, it's pretty incredible tech. And it's also leads to some unintentionally hilarious scenes as well, because you're seeing Marianne do all this stuff in the spirit world, but then when you look at the other side of the screen where she's doing in reality, it's like she's like talking to herself, and she's like picking, like when she talks to this old man spirit, she like tries to pat him on the back, but she's like patting like the air, for example.
Oh,
and
I love it.
It looks very goofy and weird, but. So at least in some moments like that, but it almost is like Cyber Shadow in a lot of ways. I think those games have a lot in common because it's trying to basically pay homage to all these other games that came before it in that type of genre, and we don't really see this that often with that type of era of horror games, because a lot of horror games we get these days are either Resident Evil style, like third person action games, or the Outlast, Alien Isolation, Amnesia style first person run away from the monster kind of games. So it was really interesting to play a modern game that really felt like an older experience. So in this way, because again, it almost reminded me so much of games like Shovel Knight or Cyber Shadow, but with a different genre of gaming. So if you like games that feel decidedly old school but have like a fresh coat of paint on them, then yeah, I think you're actually going to really like the medium. And it does do a lot of interesting things that, again, I'm not going to dive into here because we'll save that for our discussion to kind of go over a lot of that stuff that is unique to that game to make it stand out from a lot of those older games. And I honestly really loved it. Like, I actually really enjoyed my time with the medium, and I can definitely understand after playing it though why it's so hit and miss with a lot of reviewers. Just because, again, a lot like this style is not going to be up everyone's alley. Kind of like Blair Witch wasn't either, which is also a game I really enjoyed from Bluebird Team.
The same team maybe I don't trust you on this. I didn't really like Blair Witch very much either, but mostly I think from a performance standpoint. But yeah, Ryan, I wanted to go to a Burger King today because they apparently have some Mario toys that I wanted to get instead of going to McDonald's. So I punched Burger King into my my GPS, and it has taken me to a Walmart.
Oh no!
I am not at Burger King. I am not at a drive-thru. I'm gonna have to find a McDonald's around here somewhere because Lord knows I need my diet coffee. But I just want to let you know. You can't even go into
the McDonald's to get a coffee, Sean. That's the worst part.
This is awful. I just needed to update you on that. You're going to see me going around in circles a little bit. There is no Burger King here. Maybe next week. Maybe next week it'll be Burger King. I think there's one in the city. Yeah.
I mean, you got to get those Nintendo toys. That's certainly a thing. But
so embarrassing.
It's all good. But we're going to slam the brakes on this conversation, Sean. It's time for some breaking news.
Breaking news.
Oh my God, there's a lot of news to talk about this week. And I don't know if we're going to have time to get to all of it, but before that, actually, before we get to the news, to forget everything I just said, Blaze Knight at Blaze Knight 0923 actually asked a question about the medium that I completely forgot to answer. So we're going to get to that now. He asks, with the fairly mixed reception to the medium, would you say that combat is required in horror games to get critical praise from mainstream gamers or people who are not necessarily fans of the genre? Definitely if you are, I think that with reviewers in particular, I don't necessarily think that for reviews to get to have combat in their horror games to actually give it a high score. I think in the medium's case, like I kind of discussed, it's a very old school feeling game, and it's only going to really appeal to a specific type of gamer. But I think we've seen horror games that don't have combat actually review well. I know Amnesia, for example, is a prime example of a game that has reviewed very well, despite of the fact that it has zero combat in that game. So I think
even just the walking simulator genre in general, like, has been very well praised by journalists and by games media as well. So like, why would horror be outside of that? If you can put like a good story and good setting, then yeah, like I don't know that combat is ever like really required.
Yeah. So as far as now, that's reviewers are concerned. As far as mainstream gamers, that's a different scenario where I do think in order for a horror game to break into the mainstream, just kind of like a horror movie kind of falling into the same camp, there needs to be at least some action in it, and it can't be all about the suspense, I think, because when you look at horror movies, for example, most of them have at least some level of action, at least the ones that are popular. We're talking about stuff like, Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street or a lot of the really popular horror franchises, whereas a lot of the more horror intensive ones that are more about the foreboding nature of things and less about the action are less so in that camp, I think, or just less popular, I think, by nature. I mean, there are certainly cases where that prove otherwise, but for the most part, I would say that's mostly the case. And I would say it's probably the same with games, where I think that horror as a genre, if you're not feeling the atmosphere, because the atmosphere is the one thing that horror games have to nail in order to succeed. If the atmosphere isn't really clicking with you, you're not going to really like it, no matter if there's no action, because you'll be taken right out of the experience, because it is all about building that mood. So I think that yes, I would actually agree with you that without action, it's probably hard for a horror game to break into the mainstream as far as gamers are concerned. But yeah, I think the Medium's reviews, I wouldn't take too much away from that as far as the state of horror games because of just the nature of the design of the Medium, where it is that old school nature. That's the problem. But that's just how I feel about it. Do you feel any differently about this, Sean?
No. Well, I think I kind of said like what I said. Walking simulators, they give us good stuff. So I don't know. I don't like to think that like it has to check off like a particular box. I don't like thinking that way. Like that. I want creative games. That's really all I care about. And yeah, I don't know if I can say it any better than you did because I'm just gonna get a coffee right now. Hi there. Can I please get a medium decaf with 2 Splenda? Okay. That is all. Okay, first window, please. Thank you. That's it, Ryan. That's it. Nothing for you.
I'm glad you found a McDonald's. I'm so glad.
I did. All right. Yeah, they're not too far away.
Let's do some breaking news now, Sean, because we got lots of news to get through this week.
Okay.
We're going to start with a news story that we talked about last year that we finally got more info about. MLB The Show 21, Sean, is coming to Xbox this year. So it is actually coming to Xbox One and Series X on April 20th. Note, there is no smart delivery for this title, and the Series X version will cost you.
Of course there isn't.
$69.99 US dollars
or
$89.99
the Sony $70 game. Let's get outraged. Yep. Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah, it's a thing. I mean, to be fair, I'm probably still going to pick it up this year. I don't know if I'll pick it up day one, but I am probably going to pick up MLB this year because I'm actually really excited to see. Number one, I'm excited to see it actually on Xbox. But number two, I actually usually play MLB, but I usually buy them every couple of years. And it's been a while since I bought an MLB game. So I'm actually really excited to try this out on Xbox. And I'm interested to see how it takes advantage of Series X if it does at all. So I think that's really interesting.
You got to wonder too how it's going to perform just in terms of sales, but then also like, is there something that like, even though this is a Sony Studios game, do they tweak it so that it just performs a little better on the PS5? Like this is such an interesting release from a lot of different perspectives, Ryan Turford. $70 game for Xbox gamers. Maybe we'll be outraged. I don't know. We all have access to EA access as well. It'll be very interesting to see how this thing does.
But EA doesn't make baseball games, though, Sean. That's the difference.
But we got sports games.
Exactly. Well, I'm going to bring in
sports ball.
Joel, a.k.a. Falcon, at Joel, a.k.a. Falcon. He has a question about this very subject. He asks, how excited are you guys to finally play the best baseball game ever on Xbox? I am beyond excited for MLB The Show 21. This franchise is the sole reason I bought a PS4. And we actually saw a lot of people make very similar comments when this was actually announced. And it's one of the reasons why I used to turn on my PS4 a lot was to play MLB The Show, because it was the only console with a baseball game, a modern baseball game that wasn't just RBA baseball, or Baseball Stars, I think is the other game that's on Switch.
Super Mega Baseball.
Super Mega Baseball. That was the one I was thinking of. But yeah, so I'm really excited to finally see how well this does, and I'm less worried about the intentional tweaking of making it run worse on Xbox, Sean, and more just this is the studio's very first game for an Xbox console, so I'm more worried about the technical aspects of them maybe not knowing the console hardware as well as the Sony hardware, if that makes any sense. But too, the next-gen versions of these games, I don't anticipate they're going to be too much next-gen tech going into this, because it is an earlier title, and we'll probably see most of those improvements come with next year's game. But honestly, we don't know. This is all speculation because we haven't even seen the game on any of the consoles yet. So who knows? Who actually knows at this point?
Could be complete garbage, but buy it day one. Pre-order.
It could be anything. Could be
anything. A demo would be good.
A demo would be good. And actually, they usually put a demo out for MLB, so I wouldn't be surprised if you actually get that.
That's where I'm at. To answer Joel's question, I'll try a demo. I'm not a huge baseball guy anyways, but I do think baseball games interest me. They look gorgeous. I think in general, MLB The Show has been a really good looking game. We bought one back in 2014, I think, right when it came out for PS4, and that's kind of where I'm at with it. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not really a huge baseball fan either as far as watching the sport, but I love baseball video games. I think that they're really fun. So that's why I'm excited to play it. Gotcha. That also goes along with a lot of sports too, because I don't really like watching basketball either, but I really like NBA 2K. So I'm
so bad at that game. I've become very bad at all of these games. That's the thing. I used to be really good at NHL, and now I suck, and I don't know, man.
So what
Who
you're saying
cares?
is we need to pull out my NBA Jam and play some NBA Jam next
Basically.
time you come down, Sean? Is that
Basically.
what we're doing?
And actually, if we could play NCAA football, NCAA basketball, that would be great for Super Nintendo. That would be awesome.
Well, I'm glad you did a segue, Sean, because segue NCAA football is coming back in the
Sure
form
is.
of
College football.
EA Sports College Football is what it's called. For the first time in 2014, there's going to be a new college football game this year from EA, Sean, which I'm actually really excited about, even though, again, a lot of the times the NCAA games are kind of the dumping ground for a lot of the weird bugginess that
They're the testing
they kind of
ground.
fix in Madden. Yeah, they kind of.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's something about the college flavor of football game that I actually like more than Madden. So I actually am really interested to see what they do with this game. And plus, again, we'll be able to have a trial of it, so we will be able to play a demo of this because it's on EA. It's going to be on EA Play, so which is on Game Pass. So.
Well, it is going to be interesting how they roll this thing out because they still haven't really squared away what to do with the players. So I think we're going to get like randomly generated names and numbers and stats and everything.
They actually did come out and comment about that, and yes, that's what's happening. Is that
yeah.
There's going to be the randomly generated.
Is that what
players.
people want? Like, I want because this game typically sold really well with the NCAA licensing or whatever you would call it. Like, I don't know. Are we even getting like the right teams or the schools or whatever? I don't even know. Like,
They have licenses to the schools, but not the players.
not the players. Okay. Well, then you
Yeah.
know what? For me, it's all the same. Like, really.
Oh no!
Yeah.
As long as it's a fun football game, I think that's good. What's going to matter more than anything. So
Yeah.
as long as it's fun, I'll be there. And I'm actually more. I would be more excited to pick this up than something like Madden. I think if the game's fun.
Yeah.
But again,
There's
I guess we'll find out later this year.
There's a
when it
great
comes out.
video out there of NCAA football where the quarterback gets tackled and just before he hits the ground, he does like this backwards throw for a touchdown pass down the field. It's amazing, dude. So to your point about like maybe these can be a little bit tricky and buggy, but always good for a good video.
My God.
My
Well, next
God.
up, we got Mass Effect is coming back. Speaking
Finally.
of EA, we already, of course, knew that the Legendary Edition of Mass Effect was coming, but we finally got a release date of May 14th on Xbox One. Note, there's no Series X version of the game, but EA did mention that if you have a Series X or S, there will be a patch, day one patch for the game that will basically give you enhancements for that version. Kind of like Jedi Fallen
Perfect.
Order, where
Perfect.
it won't be a Series X version of the game, but
Yeah.
it'll take advantage of that hardware and
Great.
more than just out of the box kind of
That's
ways.
basically the same thing. That's like, don't
Yeah.
even say that it's not that. Like this, that's what it is.
Hey.
It gets the patch. It's fine. That's great.
I'm just reiterating what EA said, and
Oh,
we
I'm
don't
not
know
saying
the
for you.
exact
Yeah, no, I'm
details
saying that's my message to EA. EA, if you're listening, hi EA. Don't confuse us like that. Just tell us you're going to get a better experience on Series X. That's all people need to hear. That's awesome.
Yeah,
I'm stoked for this, dude. The trailer came out. I have watched that trailer 4 times. The music, I think, was perfect. I am so stoked to play this as FemShep. I've decided. I haven't played any of the games as FemShep. I think you have. You typically choose female characters in your role-playing games.
Yeah.
But I am so freaking stoked. Oh my gosh, I want to learn more about some of the changes they've made to the first game, particularly. I hear there's a bit of an overhaul kind of happening.
Well, we can talk about that a little bit because we did get some details. So
Tell me.
First off, it will include all of the DLC from all the games except for Pinnacle Station, which was from the original Mass Effect, because they lost the source code. That is the reason why it's not included in the game.
Stop. Oh, no way.
Because actually, funny story, that was the reason it wasn't in the PS3 version of the original Mass Effect
Oh, it's
either.
been gone a while. That's hilarious.
It's been gone for a while. So that's not in there. They didn't go back and redo it. As far as the original Mass Effect, they talked about how, number one, they're adding a whole bunch of quick save points because autosaving was really terrible in the original Mass Effect where you had to manually save a lot of times.
Yep.
They're fixing a lot of that stuff. They've also tweaked some of the boss fights. The one they talked about was the Matriarch Benezia fight where they tweaked kind of how long it takes to go through that encounter and kind of how that encounter works. Because a lot of that you're basically mowing down people that are not Matriarch Benezia, and then you get to the boss eventually. Whereas they're tweaking how that boss fight works. They're changing the Mako in a lot of different ways that they didn't really go into too much. But then the overall visual style of the first game looks very different from the other game. It's still going to be an Unreal Engine 3, they said. So they're not changing the engine that it's in, but they're completely overhauling the visual look of the first game to make it look just that much spiffier
probably
full
closer to
4K.
2 and 3, because there was a
Yeah.
pretty big difference when you went from the first one to the second one. Like, I don't know exactly what it was, but it does look and performs way different. I need this thing to be rock solid, Ryan. I need it to be like, if it's going to be shooting for 60 frames, let's get 60 frames. I don't want any hiccups with this stuff. Lightning fast elevator rides, of course. But
Yeah,
dude,
that's
like,
one of the things they did touch on. The elevator rides are much, much, much shorter, and then on Series X, apparently they're near instant. They were saying, which is awesome to hear. They also talked about how in the original Mass Effect, how if you didn't have like a skill, let's say in sniper rifles, if you aimed your sniper rifle, your cursor went all over the place. Yeah,
Right.
they're not doing that this time. They actually fixed that.
Right.
So little changes like that. Again, the reason why it's not like a full remake of the original Mass Effect, they said, is that they didn't want the scope to kind of get out of control and to give you a rock solid experience, which again,
Right, it's 3
is what you
games.
just said. Yeah, exactly. So they talked about the idea of doing like a Resident Evil 2-esque remake of 1 and then basically porting 2 and 3 as is with like
Right.
some visual upgrades.
that'd feel
and-
weird.
and
That would feel
changes to
weird
the
though,
frame
right?
rates.
That like
Yeah.
you go too far with 1 and then you're like kind of backing down to 2 and 3 being what they were essentially. That wouldn't be good.
So it sounds like this Legendary Edition is going to be kind of the midway point between almost like a remake and a remaster. Like
I'm
it's
happy.
kind of in the middle with that, which I think
I'm happy with
is
it.
the perfect balance for this type of thing. And I'm so excited for it. And also one thing that the blog post mentioned about this on the Xbox Wire was that obviously a quick reminder: so if you have Game Pass Ultimate, you get 10% off off this game as a
Ooh.
discount because of EA Play being in Game Pass.
Man,
So-
I'm pre-ordering this thing. Like, I don't typically pre-order stuff, but goodness gracious, this gets me so excited. I love Mass Effect. Oh my gosh, dude, I can't wait to play these games. Just clear out my schedule, dude. Like, I want to like take time off work for this. Holy, and dude, there's so many people who are going to be experiencing this for the first time. Like, I'm seeing a lot of people going like, I've never played Mass Effect before.
I'm
like,
very
what
jealous
are you
for those
doing?
people, by the way.
No kidding. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah. Whereas I've talked about it before on the Roundabout because, again, I did an episode for each one of the Mass Effect games. And I've played through Mass Effect 1, for example, 9 times, Sean.
My God.
Because I wanted to get all the achievements for that game. And honestly, I couldn't put it down. I loved the original Mass Effect. And I loved 2 and 3 as well. And I'm so excited for this collection. Again, I'm only tempering my expectations, number one, because of BioWare's previous games. I think it's safe for me to do that. But also, we already have these games on backwards compatibility, and I really hope that they change this to bring in kind of make it worth the investment that you're going to be paying
Right.
into this, because this is a full price game. Even though we do
Yep.
get the 10% discount, it is a full price experience. So I do hope there is enough there to kind of justify that cause, especially to Xbox fans that already have these games as part of your subscription. So that's the last thing I'll throw out here before we get to Jason C's question at Jade Carping About, who asked a Mass Effect related question. And he says, okay, Mass Effect, Renegade or Paragon, Fem or Male Shep, first name of your Shep, and hardest decision you ever made in the series. Sean, you alluded to it as well. You played as Male Shep and mostly Renegade. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, I've played the second one a couple of times, so I think I've done both. I've done Renegade and Paragon for Mass Effect 2. I think I played the third one twice as well. So I have done both. Actually, the first one I only played the very first time. I tried jumping back into it recently on PC, and it was just still a little bit too rough, surprisingly on PC. So FemShep this time around, and I haven't quite made up my mind yet. But maybe Paragon. But dude, like, it's hard to say. You always have a game plan until you get hit in the face. Like, you get stuck with some of those situations, and maybe the temptation may be a little too strong. I might just want to, punch a
Sometimes
reporter
you just
in the
want to
face or
punch a
something.
reporter in the face, Sean.
Yes, exactly. Sometimes you have to do it. The moment strikes and the mood strikes, and you might have to do it. But dude, I'm so excited for this one. I can't wait.
Yeah, same here. And to answer your question, Jason, from me, it was by Canon Shep, which is, again, because I've played it so many times, I have a canon Shep that I can sort of canon. Was Renegade, Fem Shep, Sentinel was my class.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
The name of my Shep is Jennifer, and the hardest decision I made, I'm going to put a Mass Effect 2 spoiler in here for 30 seconds, so skip ahead if you don't want to hear this. Or Mass Effect 3 spoiler, sorry. Morden's thing at the end, where I was like, do I really shoot Morden in the back? And I decided to shoot Morden in the back. So That was the hardest decision I had to make.
I think I've done that too. I've done both. I've done both on that situation. Yeah.
Yeah. But,
dude, we're gonna have to do like spoiler casts on Mass Effect. Like we're gonna have to do like an Xbox Drive does Mass Effect kind of thing. Oh
we
my
could do
gosh.
almost like a book club with the Mass Effect games.
Oh yes. Dude, I'm telling you. Although you'll beat 3 games in the time that it takes me to beat like the intro to the first one. It's tough to keep up with you. It's tough to keep up with you. My name is the full name of my neighbor, which I won't be able to share. But it's Matt somebody. So Shepherd. I put a full name in front of Shepherd. That's because I'm an idiot, Ryan.
My God, Sean. Well, Sean, let's let some of our friends into the car with us. It's time for the carpool. I want to make sure we get some of these questions before we gotta go. We're gonna start with Todd Oxtra at Toxtra, and he asks, Ninja Theory have a fantastic history with very stylish action games and great storytelling. Hellblade was a pivot away from the action. Do you think we'll see them make games similar to Heavenly Sword, Enslaved, or DMC that balance action and story going forward? So the 2 games we know that Ninja Theory is working on now are Project Mara and Hellblade 2. I would imagine that Hellblade 2 is going to be similar to Hellblade 1 and will probably kind of balance the puzzle solving with the action, but it'll probably lean more in the puzzle solving direction. So I don't think it's going to return to that. And Project Mara, it sounds like it's going to be a very different style game. It's entirely contained in one apartment. So I would imagine that's mostly going to be story focused. Do I see them returning maybe to that action style beyond that? Yeah, absolutely. I can see them doing that because that's definitely where the roots of that studio are. And then the Hellblade, like even Hellblade 1, had a lot of great action in it. You just didn't have a lot of it. So I think there's some desire from the studio to still do action games. I mean, especially after Bleeding Edge, even though that kind of failed and we didn't have time to talk about that, but they're no longer providing updates for that game anymore. And so I think that there's some desire for them to do more action games of some kind. Yeah. I think maybe their game after Project Mara and Hellblade 2 might be that type of game that you're looking for, Todd. But what do you think about this, John?
I think Hellblade's the game. I think they're doing it right away, man. I think that's going to be the big difference between like that. This is the sequelitis. Everything's got to be bigger, better than ever. I think you will see additional mechanics to Hellblade. I think they were quite focused. I think it was like sort of somewhat of a smaller effort, like almost like an indie type of feel to it. But I do think with the might and magic and power of the Microsoft budget, it's going to be a big game, dude. I think it's going to have to maybe the earlier point that we talked about before. Like I think this will have action on it. Yeah, but we don't really know much about Hellblade 2, really.
Yeah, we honestly don't know. It might be that type of action game.
I think it's coming. I think it needs to be that. I honestly think it needs to be that, not just for Ninja Theory, but for Xbox to have that game. Like this could be like could this be the God of War contender, right? Like I don't know if that makes any sense to put those two up against each other. But
I mean, they're both like Norse mythology-esque games, so it kind of makes sense. Although I think they mentioned that Hellblade 2 is going to borrow from other mythologies besides Norse stuff, which it did kind of in the first game too, because they borrowed from like Celtic mythology and stuff like that too. So I'm really interested to see what they do with Hellblade 2, and you might be right on this one, Sean. I think that might be the direction they go in.
That's my prediction.
I'm just really excited to see more of that game more than anything.
Same.
I love the first one. So next up, we got Skinny Matt at Skinny Matt K, and he asks, with the whole Stadia situation where they shut down basically their 2 first-party developers, even though they only are closing their game studios for now, will this help or hinder Microsoft and Google's streaming services? Well, I mean, as far as helping Microsoft, I think this helps attract more people to Microsoft's service.
Big time.
I don't know how many people are currently coming into the streaming service. Unfortunately, we don't really get too many numbers on Game Pass streaming that often. So we don't actually know how many people are really using it. But I would imagine like that number probably comes up because more than anything at this point, how many people are really investing in Stadia after this decision from them to move away from first-party development? Like, what reason is there to buy games on Stadia, especially your third-party games? Like, what if Google decides to shut it down one day? Like, what do you do then with your games?
Yeah, there's no way. The writing is on the wall. The writing is on the wall on this, man. And it's like, Microsoft is actively working to get rid of the, that stigma that they've had that they didn't have studios, that they didn't have exclusive games. And like the only way to counter that is to go get the studios and go take care of that. There's no way that a newcomer to the industry can bank on not having any first-party material. Like there's In my mind, there's absolutely no way. My thought on this is maybe Google was thinking that that Microsoft was going to acquire one of their studios, and they thought just shut them down instead before Microsoft buys one of them. That's where I'm at, man. But Jade Raymond should be coming over. She should go work at the initiative, or maybe take over the coalition or something like that. That would be amazing.
She is definitely a free agent, and I would love to see her come back to, or I shouldn't say come to Microsoft, because I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, well, definitely.
Last question we got is from Seumas MacIsaac at Famous Seumas, and he asks, so with Control Ultimate Edition now out on next-gen consoles, because I think it just came out yesterday, are there any other last-gen games that you want to see improved versions of on next-gen systems? And I'm going to throw it to you, Sean, because I know you've got a couple already marked down here. You've got Dying Light, The Evil Within.
Dying Light is so good. When was the last time? You played Dying Light, right? Did you play it on last gen? Like, it doesn't run all that great, does it? It definitely is something that needs something. I haven't played in a while, but I can imagine it could.
I think it runs at like 30 frames per second, but I would love to see like a 60 frames per second version, for example. Like, that would be cool.
Yeah, Evil Within is one of my favorite horror games from the last gen, and particularly like the first one. And like, those are ones that I could see myself playing again. Another one that I thought of was Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Probably wouldn't play that again, but enough people love that game that I think that would actually do quite well with some advancements.
Yeah, I also would see that you mentioned Crackdown 3, maybe.
Yeah,
Diablo
question mark.
3.
Like, Diablo 3 I think would be really cool. Although they're probably going to be more focusing on Diablo 4 in the next probably 9 years or whenever that game's going to come out.
We're actually probably going to hear about that at BlizzCon in a couple weeks, actually, which I'm actually super excited to hear more info about. Also, you mentioned Nier Automata and Dragon Age Inquisition and Gears.
Oh, Dragon Age Inquisition definitely would be incredible. I mean, just like Mass Effect, like BioWare stuff, it generally, when it launches, it generally doesn't perform very well. It's kind of like maybe The Witcher in that way. Framey stuff, kind of buggy, could definitely use a fresh coat of paint or a polish. And yeah, Dragon Age Inquisition I think is a wonderful game that with some optimization that could be even better. And then the other thing too that I didn't write down was Call of Duty Modern Warfare. It is not optimized for Series S and X. And I think that's just because the newest game, the Black Ops Cold War thing is, but I'd like to see last year's Call of Duty get a little update as well.
That would be cool. As for me, honestly, like Diablo 3, for example, was going to be my pick. That would be my choice. But obviously, again, with Diablo 4 coming, I don't anticipate Blizzard ever going back and doing that. Same with Overwatch. With Overwatch 2 coming out soon.
Ooh, that's a better answer than Diablo. Diablo runs pretty well. Like, it's sort of like a, just get us back into it more, like get re-excited about it. But yeah, Overwatch is an excellent choice.
Yeah, and it's for the same reasons as well. Another one that we played recently was Wolfenstein: The New Order, or any of the Wolfenstein games too. I would love to see kind of get Series X enhanced versions. I would actually also normally say Doom Eternal, but we know we're getting that. But Doom 2016, I think, would be a good one too.
Good one
to do some visual updates, because the PC version of the game looks amazing.
Did Fallout 4 get something, or was that a mod that I saw? Is Fallout 4 running at 60 frames?
We saw that a patch is coming for Fallout 4, but it's not out yet. But we do know that. But they did announce that 60 frames per second is coming to Fallout 4. So
it needs it for sure.
That's in the pipe. And the Outer Worlds is the last one I'll throw out there.
Nice.
Because it did get an update, like a patch, but I would love to see like a full-blown, like Control-esque version of that. Like, I think that would be pretty cool. But Sean, we got to go. But before we go, Sean, plugs go.
We do have to go. You can find me on the internet at Sean Capri. It's Sean like Connery, Capri like the pants. And if you like the show just a little bit, you can throw some gas money our way at patreon.com/YouMeCapri. How about you, man?
As for me, you can find me on Twitter at Ryan Turford. That's TURFORD, because everybody always asks. You also find us on YouTube at youtube.com/the Xbox Drive, as well as podcast services around the globe, as well as on Twitter at the Xbox Drive. So for Sean Capri, I'm Ryan Turford. This has been episode 176 of the Xbox Drive, and we out. Bye.
Ryan Turford, I think I'm not going to make you run out of breath this day. I don't really have anything to say other than to say thank you, everybody, for listening. That's it. Bomb!